What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Free Toaster, the show for fintech marketers and consumer lending. I'm Carlos Caro, and as always, I'm here with my co-host, Nick Madrid. Nick, our top story this week, J.D. Power filed a lawsuit against Chime in federal court in New York over Chime's quote-unquote America's number one choice for banking campaign. The two companies our audience probably knows pretty well by now in a legal dispute over a marketing claim. Can you give us a lay of the land?
Thanks, Carlos. A quick disclosure, I used to work for Chime. I'm still a stockholder. So on June 2nd, J.D. Power filed in the Southern District of New York a breach of contract, trademark infringement, and false advertising claims. At the center of this campaign, you've probably seen America's number one choice for banking. If you go to chime.com right now, you can see that with the supporting line, number one ranking based on J.D. Power survey. And what's interesting here is that both sides are pointing at the same data, but they're reading it completely differently. Chime's view is that the claim is supported by publicly available J.D. Power data, showing more new checking accounts were opened through Chime than any other listed institution. And then J.D. Power's view is that the study tracks new account openings by category. It's not an overall ranking or measure of who's anyone's primary bank is.
Yeah, and to be clear, this isn't a regulatory story. So there's no agencies, there's no CFPB involved here. This feels to us like a commercial dispute between two private companies. And underneath that, the whole dispute, there's a contract question. So looks like they had a data agreement of some kind. And a lot of this case may come down to how each of them reads that agreement, what was licensed, for what use, what wasn't.
Yeah, totally right. And J.D. Power says that the agreement covered internal use and that advertising use through its licensing program. Chime is disputing that read, calling the complaint selective and incomplete, and says it'll defend itself vigorously. They pointed to other recognition like Time, which named them the number one banking brand. And so you can see that the shape of it, one side believes its name and research are being used in ways it didn't authorize. And the other side believes it's standing on public data and owning its contract rights. Reasonable for hopefully a court would sort out, or maybe even better, honestly, for just the two sides to settle it out.
Yeah, and here's the part I find maybe more interesting, though, for the marketers in our audience behind the legal back and forth, is how much claims like this are going to matter going forward. So we talk a lot on the show about agentic commerce, where things might be going, and AI agents sourcing financial products on behalf of consumers. An agent comparing checking accounts, I don't think they're going to be swayed by what that headline says or whether it's J.D. Power or not. It's going to be looking at the substance, the rates, the terms, et cetera, et cetera.
100%, right? And if third-party validation has been a pillar of your landing page strategy, what is its shelf life in the world where most of the shopping happens through an agent, which we keep talking about, like we talked about last week and the week before. So this is absolutely a theme that we're going to carry forward. And this might end up being just a more durable takeaway than anything else that happens in that courtroom or, in arbitration.
Yeah, either way, it's one to watch. We haven't seen Chime formally respond yet, and it's early days, but we'll keep tracking this one as we learn more in the newsletter. Before we continue today's show, I want to thank our sponsors, Fintel Connect, Spinwheel, and Bulldog Media Group. Specifically on Bulldog Media Group, they specialize in connecting consumer lenders with less than perfect borrowers, which is a massive underserved market that takes real precision and targeting to get right. They've been in the business for 25 years. They look at qualified leads through affiliate, email, and other acquisition sources. If you're a lender in this market looking to scale, really recommend you checking them out. Link is going to be in the show notes.
Cool. All right, Carlos. Today's the day. We've been talking about this internally, you and I, with Amanda, but now we want to share to the world even more. So the bulk of today's show is September 23rd, the Affiliate Marketing Summit for Lenders. We're obviously sponsoring it, but we are so excited about this, right? And it's sponsored by Experian and Engine by Jen, who we've met last week, and they were super stoked with where we're taking this. So now we're able to unveil a little bit more about that. We figured let's talk about it in a pod. So because the questions we're building in the event are around the exact questions that fintech marketers care about and what they're wrestling with right now, let's go there.
Yeah, so let's talk about the philosophy first, because it shapes everything. The people in the room are going to be the most senior folks in lending and affiliate publishing. A lot of them don't need any kind of recap on what's happened in the past. They have a really good pulse on that. What they don't have a lot of certainty about is what's coming. So The format we keep coming back to, and then Nick and I, you have talked about, is what are the big open questions that the industry is currently wrestling with? What do we know? How do we know it? What's still unknown? And we're deliberately not going to be handing answers to people, partly because honestly, nobody has them yet.
Yeah, and that's a feature. It's not a bug. The content is designed to seed the conversations that happen in the hallway, at lunch, and at happy hour. And if you walk out of a session with a strong point of view you want to argue about with the person next to you, we think that's the version of success. The event is working. So let's go through some of the big ones, right? So question one, and I think it's the biggest. Will paid search still be a viable channel?
Yeah, and maybe we actually zoom up one level because I think another question, and maybe a bigger one, is what's happening to search overall, because the way people interact with Google and the internet is changing as we speak. And for a lot of the folks in the room, that's existential. So affiliate publishers are selling media to lenders. A big share of that attention is coming from search. If you look at players like NerdWallet, they've been very public about how they've been struggling to source consumer attention because search has changed faster than they can keep up with.
So let's play out the scenario for me, right? So what's the bear case and the bull case for the people in our room?
Yeah, so maybe the worst case for the lender is publishers you've relied on for years to capture your search intent get disrupted, and suddenly you have to figure out how to capture that consumer demand on your own. The optimistic case, and I think one that's more probable personally, is that search is just better for the consumer. It's conversational, it's contextual, it has all your data. We covered the story recently with how ChatGPT and Petal are collaborating, which means search as a category could grow, and both lenders and affiliates can ride that growth. We're already seeing the early shape of it. So Experian just launched a personal loan shopping experience directly inside ChatGPT this week. We covered it in our newsletter. That's a marketplace moving to where the consumer attention is going.
But there's a third dynamic here, I think, which are new entrants. There will be publishers and lenders who are native to these environments from day one, who never build for Google Blue Links at all, and only for ChatGPT and Claude or whatever the interface is going to be. So the questions here for incumbents in our room become, what does it even mean to be native to AI search? How do you compete with someone who is, who's positioned to win in the next generation of search, who's positioned to lose? That's the session. That's the conversation.
Yeah, and a big thing what we're trying to do with this event is to fight the echo chamber on this a bit. And one thing I've noticed about this industry is everyone talks to each other, everyone knows each other. So part of our plan is to bring some outside voices, people who think about search and social at a more macro level, maybe who don't even know lending per se, and briefing them on the nuances of what the folks in the room do. Then the industry folks get to react. Okay, given this expert said this, here's what it means to us.
Maybe we just do social right now. So because the dynamic there is fascinating and a little counterintuitive, right? The volume of content is exploding. It has never been easier to produce human or synthetic content. But what we're seeing on our side with our video first work, some of the stuff I'm doing and I covered, is that the algorithms seem to be rewarding content that's unmistakably human. A real person on camera delivering the real news. So the strategic question is for marketers, in my mind, isn't like, how do I produce more content with AI? It's how it might be, how do I prove that I'm human at scale?
Yeah, no, it's a pretty wild place to land, right? The AI flood makes human signal more valuable, not less, and it connects to the influencer question. So financial influencers, creator partnerships, the category probably grows overall because production costs collapse, but distribution itself keeps getting less durable. The platforms decide who sees your posts. Email providers decide which tab your newsletter lands in. The truth is we want to put on stage is nothing is a sustainable mode on distribution anymore. You have to re-earn it constantly.
Yeah, and I think that's the perfect bridge to the money question, because all this only matters if lenders keep spending. And the thing that governs affiliate budgets more than anything is lender unit economics. So walk through that, because I think it's the single most underrated driver of this whole channel.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's the engine underneath all of it. When a lender looks at the lifetime value of a new customer per origination, whether it's a card or a personal loan, and that number looks healthy and expanding, they lean in. So they pour more money into the category, whether it's affiliate or anything else. And then when those margins compress, they pull back and they start leaning into their first party channels, things like direct mail and branches. And some of this is macro. So rates, the health of the consumer, loss rates, things nobody in the room directly controls. But here's what's changed: there's now a real margin expansion category on the cost side. AI is collapsing the cost to serve a customer. So customer service, that used to be one of the big line items for a lender, is increasingly automated, and every dollar of cost savings that comes out of that is a dollar that can flow back into acquisitions.
Yeah, and even just to layer on something new, is this new bank formation wave. More charters, more niche lenders, because the technical bar to entry is basically being removed. And a fintech that used to borrow at 12 and lend at 19 might soon borrow at 5 and lend at 12. Better economics, better consumer value prop, and crucially for this audience, a more marketing budget hunting for distribution. Net that's bullish for publishers and for marketplace monetization.
Yeah, no, it also keeps the big incumbents honest. So these companies getting the new licenses are almost by definition the up and comers, challenging, the Chases and the Wells Fargos of the world. So more competition. It's going to mean better offers for consumers, and most likely higher monetization rates for the marketplaces too. Um, that's part of the state of the industry story we want to talk about. So consumer health, borrowing trends, channel dynamics, and then debate and discuss what that all means.
Totally. And there's one more pillar that we were talking about for our summit that we want to bring in and flag, and it's probably the hardest thing. It's attribution, right? And these channels don't operate in isolation, and most measurement pretends that they do, right? In the classic pattern, a consumer gets a direct mail piece from a lender that they never heard of, and instead of responding to the letter, they Google the name, they land on a marketplace, they compare offers, and they convert through affiliate. So mail drove the affiliate conversion, and almost nobody's measurement model might give it credit. So we're looking and kind of putting the flag out, and we're actively searching and talking to people. We want someone or some people whose thoughts about attribution at a serious scale to help us unpack, how these channels really interact with each other.
Yeah, and then I think the question that may generate some hallway debate is what happens to the partnership job itself. And my honest take from years of doing this, I used to spend days building decks and reports just so a partner and I could be staring at the same numbers for a 30-minute conversation. And now AI can do all that prep. So the optimistic version is the job actually gets better. So it's less time producing reports, more time on actual strategy and partnership. Why does this matter? Where's the consumer going? How do we collaborate? The provocative version, someone could argue on stage, the role gets automated away entirely, and it's just the systems negotiating deal terms with other systems.
Yeah, and as we think about designing this summit, curating the conversation, that's exactly the format we want. We want two, very, credible people that are seemingly taking opposite sides. The goal isn't for one speaker to win the room. The goal is to create a little gravity pull to the 5 or 10 people who share your view into a real conversation. And one more thing on format without giving away everything is that we're working on something experimental that will let the room benchmark itself anonymously in real time. The kind of numbers that everyone wonders about and nobody publishes. So if you ever asked yourself, like, am I overpaying, underpaying, or right on market for the customers I'm acquiring? Like, you want to be there for that.
And to be clear, that'll be off the record and for folks in the room only. And that's kind of the whole ethos of this event.
Okay, Carlos, I think we're at the end. So let's recap the big questions we're building that we're hoping to pose on September 23rd. What's happening to search? Who's native to what comes next? How does social reward human first content in a synthetic flood? What do lender unit economics and the new bank formation wave mean for affiliate budgets? How do channels like mail and affiliate actually interact, in attribution? And does AI make the partnership jobs better or disappear?
Yeah, and if those questions are the kinds of questions keeping you up at night, you should be in the room. It's the Affiliate Marketing Summit for Lenders, September 23rd, sponsored by Experian and Engine by Jen. It's going to be a small curated room, 150 person max. We've already seen people, senior leaders from Experian, Engine, Credit Karma, Bankrate, Lending Tree, Credible, Quinn Street, Bulldog Media Group, SoFi, Lending Club, and early bird pricing ends August 1st. After which the price is going to go up from $9.99 to $14.99, and the seats are limited. So we'll put the registration link in the show notes and in the newsletter. And if you want to go there now, it's at events.thefreetoaster.com.
And as always, we spend time every week putting this news edition together. So if there's one ask we have also is just help us and go read it. Give us some feedback. You could read the full breakdown of JD Power's suit against Chime. We have a news article in there about the Experian and ChatGPT launch, which is really interesting. And everything else from this week, again, at thefreetoaster.com. And if it was useful, please forward it to someone. That's how we grow, and that's what we appreciate.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you next week.